Welcome to the Fishbowl with Jade. Thank you for being here. I don't take your presence lightly because time is something you can never get back. And the fact that you chose to spend yours here with me, that means something. So go ahead and put on your scuba gear because today we are diving deep. Some marriages don't fall apart with slammed doors, explosive arguments, or betrayal. There isn't always a moment you can point to and say, that's when it broke. Sometimes couples drift quietly, gradually, almost respectfully. And when someone asks how things are going, the answer is simple: we're fine. We're fine means the bills are paid. It means the house runs. It means the kids are okay. It means there's no crisis to fix, no emergency to respond to, nothing urgent demanding attention. From the outside, everything looks stable, everything looks intact. But fine is not the same as connected. It is not the same as fulfilled. It is not the same as alive. Where fine is often the language of a relationship that has stopped expecting more. And here's where we have to get honest. Stagnation doesn't suddenly appear 10 years into a marriage. It doesn't begin with distance. It begins with optimism. When you choose someone, you are not marrying who they might become. You are marrying who they are right now. But early love has a way of softening clarity. It makes us overlook things. It makes us excuse things. It allows us to tell ourselves stories that feel better than the truth. He's just messy. She shuts down sometimes. He'll open up once he feels secure. She'll relax once we're settled. We convince ourselves that certain traits are temporary, or that love itself will smooth out the edges over time. But who someone is before marriage is not a preview, it is the present. And both people walk into that commitment carrying belief. You saw potential in them, and they saw potential in you. Both of you assumed growth would come naturally, that love would evolve without intentional effort, that time would fix what felt incomplete. But marriage does not automatically change character, it reveals it. And when what is revealed stays the same, the relationship begins to feel the weight of that reality. Now let's look at both sides. Because stagnation is rarely one-sided, there is often one partner who feels the shift first. They notice the conversations getting shorter, the laughter becoming less frequent, the connection becoming more functional than emotional. They feel the distance, but they don't always know how to address it without sounding ungrateful or dramatic. So they wait, they adjust, they hope it's just a phase. Then there is the other partner, who may not feel the distance in the same way. To them, everything is working. Responsibilities are being handled. Life is moving forward. There's no major conflict. So there's no reason to believe anything is wrong. And from their perspective, nothing is. They are showing up in the way they understand stability. They don't realize that what feels like peace to them feels like disconnection to the other person. And this is where the gap begins. Not in betrayal, not in conflict, but in perception. One person is asking, where did we go? The other is thinking, we're still here. And neither one is completely wrong. Let me give you a real life picture, because this doesn't always look dramatic. It looks like a couple sitting in the same living room, one scrolling on their phone, the other staring into space. It looks like passing each other in the kitchen, talking about schedules, but not about feelings. It looks like going to bed at the same time, but not going to sleep connected. No argument, no tension, just distance that neither one fully knows how to name. Or it looks like this. One partner keeps saying, we need to spend more time together, while the other responds, we're together every day. One is asking for connection, the other is offering presence. And somehow, both feel misunderstood. From a psychological perspective, this makes sense. Human beings adapt. What once felt exciting becomes familiar. What once required effort becomes routine. This is hedonic adaptation. We get used to what we once valued. The same person who once gave you butterflies eventually becomes part of your everyday environment. And unless there is intentional effort to create new connection, the relationship slowly shifts from emotional to operational. Then there's communication, or the lack of it. Not because people don't care, but because they assume. They assume the other person knows how they feel. They assume things will correct themselves. They assume that because nothing is broken, nothing needs fixing. But silence doesn't protect a relationship, it slowly reshapes it. Socially, this is even more complicated because from the outside, this kind of marriage looks successful. There's no scandal, no separation, no visible struggle. And because of that, people stay, not always because they're fulfilled, but because it still works. There's comfort, there's routine, there's shared history. There are responsibilities that don't disappear just because connection fades. And sometimes, without even realizing it, we start measuring our relationship against someone else's. We look at another couple and say, at least we're not like that. At least we don't argue like them. At least we're still together. And in that comparison, we convince ourselves that we're doing okay. But comparison can be misleading because you're not measuring connection, you're measuring visible dysfunction. You're not asking, are we happy? You're asking, are we worse than them? And those are two very different questions. Every relationship has its own reality behind closed doors. The couple you think is struggling may still feel deeply connected, while the couple that looks perfect may be quietly disconnected. So when you use someone else's relationship as your benchmark, you lower the standard without even realizing it, because better than them is not the same as fulfilled. And sometimes comparison doesn't just create comfort, it creates complacency. It allows you to settle into good enough instead of asking for more. It keeps you from addressing what feels off because nothing looks broken. But your relationship should not be defined by how it compares to someone else's. It should be defined by how it feels to you. So the question becomes, are you staying because you're in love or because it's functional? And that's not an easy question to sit with, because leaving something that isn't broken feels harder than leaving something that is. But let's go deeper, because stagnation doesn't mean the love is gone. It often means the love has gone unattended. The thrill is gone, as B.B. King said. But the relationship is still standing. There's a quiet grief that comes with this kind of distance because nothing ended, but something changed. You can remember what it used to feel like, the conversations, the laughter, the effort, and now you're standing in the same space with the same person, and it feels different, not worse, just less. And sometimes that's harder to explain because there's no moment to point to, just a feeling you can't ignore. And let's be clear, stagnation is rarely about one person doing everything wrong. It's usually about two people slowly doing less of what once brought them together. Life gets busy, responsibilities grow, priorities shift, and without even realizing it, the relationship moves from something you actively nurture to something you simply maintain. Sometimes one person stops speaking up and the other stops checking in. One starts feeling unseen while the other believes everything is still secure. And in that space, unspoken expectations begin to turn into quiet resentment, not loud enough to cause an argument, but strong enough to create distance. Because the truth is, most people don't wake up one day and decide to disconnect. They just slowly stop doing the things that kept them connected. Sometimes we don't lose the connection. We slowly stop protecting it. So can it be saved? The answer is not simple because it depends on awareness and willingness. It requires both people to acknowledge that fine is not enough, that stability without connection eventually feels like distance, that love without intention becomes routine. It requires uncomfortable conversations, honest reflection, and a willingness to see not just what the other person has stopped doing, but what you may have stopped bringing into the relationship as well. Because stagnation is not just about what's missing from them, it's about what's been lost between you. Reconnection is possible, but it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through effort, through choosing each other again, not out of habit, but with intention. And for some, the realization comes too late. For others, it becomes the turning point. But either way, the truth remains. Not every marriage that stays together is growing, and not every marriage that looks fine feels like love. So I'll leave you with this. Are you connected or just maintaining? I write about family, dynamics, and relationships, the real, unfiltered issues that happen every single day. Because every day there is a story unfolding around you. Some are loud, some are silent, but they are all real. You'll hear me talk about characters from my books because writing is more than storytelling for me. It's expression, it's release, it's healing. I bring these stories to life through characters and pages, not just to tell a story, but to make you feel something. Parts of this podcast are inspired by my story, The Thrill Is Gone, coming summer 2026. My hope is that you continue this journey with the Fishbowl, with Jade and the Jade Empowerment Movement, not just listening, but reflecting, not just hearing, but seeing yourself a little clearer with every word, turning each page, going a little deeper, and maybe even recognizing a piece of your own story in the process. And if you do, I hope you find the courage to share it one day, the way I share mine, unapologetically and unashamed. Thank you for sitting in the bowl with me. Now let's come back to the surface. Stay classy, stay curious, stay ever evolving. The Fishbowl with Jade is available on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcast. Search Jade Mills.